The trade concourse of Cryon Station was alive with its usual chaos. Shouts of vendors hawking wares, the metallic clatter of freight drones, the thick scent of engine coolant mixed with fried street food, lights from a dozen alien languages, blinked across signs, each promising the best deal or unbeatable prices. It was a place where fortunes were made and lives were crushed, where the rich flaunted their wealth above while the poor scrounged in the underdecks. Through this noise and bustle stumbled a girl. She was Vayari, slender, delicate by most species standards. Her skin was a pale blue that seemed dulled with exhaustion, her silver eyes too bright with tears. Her hair, which should have shimmered like living crystal strands, hung limp and tangled. She was barefoot, her clothing worn thin and patched too many times to count. Her voice, small yet piercing in its desperation, rose above the hum of commerce. "Please, please someone help me," she cried, but no one stopped. A merchant selling glittering stones turned his back, pretending not to hear. A group of mercenaries brushed past, armor plates clanking, sneering as they muttered something about beggars. Even the station enforcers, gray-uniformed, bored, armed with stun batons, looked the other way. She reached for sleeves, tugged at arms, fell to her knees before strangers, and every time the response was the same. Rejection, a shrug, a shove, indifference. Her breath came in ragged gasps as panic tightened her chest. She had been trying for hours, maybe longer. It was hard to keep track of time when every moment felt like drowning. She wasn't even sure why she kept trying. No one had cared before. Why would today be any different? Then she saw him. He stood apart from the crowd, a tall human with broad shoulders and the kind of weariness in his eyes that spoke of too many battles survived. His fatigues were faded, the patches long stripped away, but the bearing remained, unmistakable. A soldier. A long scar curved from his jaw to his temple, not fresh but not forgotten either. His name, though she did not know it yet, was Marcus Hale. Something in him felt different, not safe exactly. Humans rarely felt safe to other species, but solid, present. A man who did not turn his gaze away when someone was in need. Elira. She had almost forgotten the sound of her own name, summoned the last of her courage. She rushed toward him, stumbling as her knees nearly gave way. Her small hands caught at his sleeve, clutching desperately. "Please," she whispered, her voice raw from begging. Then louder, trembling, "Please, follow me. I need you to see." Marcus looked down at her, eyes narrowing with suspicion. He had seen scams before, too many to count. Frail children leading fools into alleys, only for gangs to emerge from the shadows. It was an old trick. But then he looked closer. Her grip was weak, trembling. Not the practiced desperation of a con artist, but the exhaustion of someone on the edge of collapse. Her tears weren't forced. They left streaks on dirt-smudged skin. And her voice, it wasn't a plea for money or credits. It was something else, something heavier. He let out a slow breath. He didn't want this. He didn't need another burden. Yet the words came anyway. "All right. Show me." The girl almost collapsed with relief, as though the strength holding her upright had been tied to his single word. She seized his hand, small, cold, almost weightless, and pulled him forward through the throng. Her steps were hurried, almost frantic, but she glanced back to make sure he followed. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, but beneath the fear there was. The deeper they went, the more the station changed. At first, the corridors still held the echoes of commerce, bright signs in alien scripts, repair crews arguing over fees, the hum of passing cargo skimmers. But the further Elira pulled Marcus, the more those sounds faded into silence. The lights above flickered weakly, some so dim they cast long, stuttering shadows across the rust-stained walls. The polished floors gave way to warped panels patched with mismatched metal. A smell of dampness and machine oil hung in the air. Marcus knew this kind of place. Every station had it. The forgotten decks, the levels no one admitted existed. The higher classes called it waste space. The people who lived here called it home. Elira's pace slowed as they turned into an abandoned maintenance passage. Her hand trembled on the keypad of a sealed bulkhead door. The lock wasn't electronic anymore. She had rigged it to work on. A manual code. Clever, Marcus thought, though it spoke to how dangerous this area must be. A moment later, the heavy door hissed and groaned open. The stench hit him first. Not rot, but something worse. Stale air, unwashed bodies, sickness left untreated. Inside was a cramped storage bay. Once it might have held spare hull plating or fuel cells. Now it had been transformed into a shelter, though shelter felt like too kind a word. The walls were lined with tattered blankets hung for privacy. Piles of scavenged crates served as makeshift furniture. A single cracked heating unit buzzed weakly in the corner, its light blinking an uneven rhythm. Marcus's soldier instincts registered every detail, but it was what lay in the shadows that froze him in place. Children, half a dozen Veyari, some no older than toddlers, others on the edge of adolescence. They huddled together on the floor, wrapped in scraps of cloth. Their thin limbs and sunken cheeks told a story no words could. Their skin, normally luminous, was dulled to a flat gray blue. Their hair had lost its sheen, clinging in greasy strands. The faint shimmer of their eyes, the pride of their species, was dimmed by hunger and sickness. One boy looked up at Marcus, his eyes glassy. His lips parted, but no sound came out, just a rattling breath. Marcus's chest tightened. He had seen bodies on battlefields, soldiers broken by war, but this was worse. War killed fast. This was the slow erosion of life, dragged out by neglect. Elira knelt beside the boy, stroking his hair gently. Her voice was soft, cracked with tears. "They're all I have left," she whispered. "My parents, gone. The station doesn't care. The other Veyari," she trailed off, her throat tightening. Marcus frowned. "What do you mean, the other Veyari?" "They call us useless," she said, almost choking on the word. "Outcasts, parasites. We were cast out when we couldn't keep up with the guild quotas. Too many mouths, not enough hands to work." Her shoulders shook. "I tried to beg. I tried to find scraps. But no one sees us. No one wants to." She hugged one of the smallest children to her chest, a girl with a hacking cough. "If they die, I'll be alone. And I can't—" Her voice broke. The sound of a child coughing, a dry rattling noise that echoed in the chamber, snapped Marcus back to himself. He clenched his fists. Memories surged, war zones, refugee camps, the same cough echoing from children he had once carried out of ruins. This wasn't new. Different faces, different species, but the same damn cruelty. He crouched down, eye level with Elira. She flinched at first, as though bracing for scorn, but his eyes held only something she hadn't seen in anyone else here: recognition. "You've been doing this alone?" he asked quietly. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I thought, maybe if I could find just one person, someone who wouldn't turn away, someone who—" Her voice faltered. "They say humans don't abandon, that humans help. I didn't know if it was true." Marcus exhaled slowly, his scarred face unreadable. He didn't answer right away. The truth was complicated. He knew plenty of humans who had abandoned, who had walked away. He had been one of them, drifting, running from old ghosts. But something inside him stirred at her words. One of the smallest children whimpered, clutching at Elira's arm. She rocked him gently, whispering a lullaby in a language Marcus didn't understand. The boy's coughing eased, though his breath stayed shallow. Elira looked up, her silver eyes brimming with fear and hope both. "You're human," she whispered. "Please, don't turn away. Please, help us." For the first time in years, Marcus felt his soldier's heart crack. Something more. A fragile, flickering hope. "My name is Elira," she whispered, her voice nearly breaking. "Please, don't hate me for what you'll see." Marcus sat in silence on one of the broken crates, elbows on his knees, staring at the dimly lit chamber. The faint hum of the heating unit filled the air, broken occasionally by the cough of a child or the sound of shifting blankets. The smell of stale air clung to everything, heavy with the scent of desperation. He rubbed a hand across his face, trying to still the storm building inside. Part of him wanted to walk away. The instinct was almost automatic, born from years of soldiering. Don't get attached, don't get dragged in, don't make someone else's fight your own. Since leaving the military, Marcus had lived by one rule: keep moving. No roots, no ties, no responsibilities. It was the only way to survive without breaking. But now here he was, staring at children who had nothing but bones, rags, and the fading warmth of each other. His mind flashed back to other places, other times. Earth cities shelled to rubble, villages burned to the ground, orphans with dirt-streaked faces reaching for him as he marched past, eyes wide and empty. He had carried some out of the fire. He had left others behind, the ones he hadn't saved. Haunted him still. "This isn't my war," he told himself. "I don't owe them anything." But the voice inside, the one he thought he had buried long ago, whispered back, "And if you walk away, they die. Just like the others." He looked at Elira. She sat against the wall, holding the youngest child, little more than a bundle of bones and coughs, close to her chest. Her silver eyes were swollen from crying, but she tried to stay steady for the others. He could see the strain in her every movement, the exhaustion in the way her shoulders slumped. She was barely more than a girl herself, yet she carried the weight of all their lives alone. She caught him watching. For a moment their eyes met. Hers held no pride, no defiance, only fear and a flicker of hope, as if she were clinging to the possibility that he might be different from everyone else. Marcus exhaled slowly, his decision crystallizing. "All right," he said at last, his voice low but firm. Elira blinked, confused. What do you mean?" "I mean," Marcus said, standing, "I'll help you, but we do this my way." The words seemed to hang in the air. Elira's mouth opened, but no sound came. Out. Then her body shook as she almost collapsed under the weight of relief. Her tears came freely now, spilling down her cheeks as she clutched the child tighter. "You mean it?" she whispered, voice trembling. "Yeah," Marcus said, his tone gruff but steady. "First, food, then medicine. After that, we figure out something permanent, but one step at a time." She nodded rapidly, tears still flowing. I don't know how to thank you." Marcus crouched, meeting her gaze. "Don't thank me yet. This won't be easy. People won't like what I'm doing." His jaw tightened. "But I've dealt with worse." The smallest child stirred, blinking weakly at Marcus. He reached out with a trembling hand, touching the rough fabric of the human's fatigues. The gesture was so small, so fragile, yet it pierced straight through Marcus's chest. For the first time in years, he felt something he thought he'd lost: purpose. He straightened, scanning the chamber once more. His soldier's mind was already working: supply lines, resource acquisition, defense. This wasn't a battlefield, not exactly, But it needed the same discipline, the same resolve. He had a mission again, and missions were what he understood best. He looked down at Alira, who was still staring at him as if he were a miracle. "You've been keeping them alive this long," he said. "That's no small thing. But now you're not alone." Her lips trembled, and she whispered the words like a prayer. "Not alone?" Marcus gave a short nod. He wasn't a man for speeches, but he knew what he had just promised her, and himself. Marcus Hale was no stranger to resistance. Every mission he'd ever taken had one constant: someone, somewhere, who wanted him to fail. Cryan Station was no different. The first hurdle was food. He spent what little credits he had on ration packs, the kind soldiers used, dense, bland, but packed with calories. The vendor, a squat, four-armed Murnak, gave him a look somewhere between pity and contempt. "Human," the merchant said, lowering his voice. "If you're buying this much, it's not for you. Don't waste it. Those Vayari brats, they're dead weight. Let them fade quietly and save your credits." Marcus's jaw flexed, but he didn't answer. He scooped up the crates, his silence heavy enough to end the conversation. The second hurdle was medicine. That was harder. Antibiotics and nutrient serums cost more than he had. When he asked at one clinic, the medic laughed in his face. "Vayari outcasts? You must be joking. I don't waste supplies on refuse." Marcus leaned. Across the counter, his scarred face inches from the medic's. His voice was low, controlled, the kind of tone that made lesser men think twice. "Sell me what I need, or I'll find someone who will. But understand this, if one of those kids dies because of you, I'll remember your name." The medic swallowed, pale, and slid the crate across without another word. By the third day, Marcus had secured enough food and basic medicine to make a difference. The change in the children was small but visible. Their coughing eased, their hollow eyes brightened, if only faintly. For the first time, some even managed weak smiles. But the station noticed. Whispers followed Marcus wherever he went. "The human's feeding them. Wasting his strength. Doesn't he know what they are?" Some laughed. Others muttered darker things. And then came the confrontation. It happened in the lower markets, where shadows hung thick and deals were made in whispers. Marcus was carrying a pack of heating coils for the children when a group of mercenaries blocked his path. 6 of them, armored in mismatched plates, armed with clubs and stun rifles. Their leader, a broad-shouldered Tvaran with tusks jutting from his jaw, stepped forward. "Human," the Tvaran sneered. "You're making a mistake. Those Vayari you're protecting, they're parasites. We've spent years cleaning this station of their filth, and you drag it back in." Marcus didn't flinch. He set the pack of coils down carefully at his feet, straightened to his full height, and looked the mercenary dead in the eyes. "They're children," Marcus said evenly. "And I don't take orders from thugs," the Tvaran snarled. "You should walk away. Now. Before you get hurt." For a long moment, silence stretched between them. The mercenaries shifted, expecting Marcus to back down. But humans had a reputation across the galaxy. Stubborn, reckless, and terrifying when pushed. Marcus moved first. His fist slammed into the Tvaran's face with the force of a hammer. The alien staggered back, tusks snapping, blood spraying. Before the others could react, Marcus pivoted, driving his elbow into another's chest, sending the merc crashing into a stall. The fight was quick, brutal, efficient. By the time station enforcers arrived, 3 mercs were groaning on the ground and the others had fled. Marcus picked up his pack of coils, calm as if nothing had happened. The enforcers didn't stop him. They knew better than to interfere with a human who'd made up his mind. Word spread quickly. No one challenged him again. But the whispers changed. Some spoke with derision, others with fear, a few quietly, with respect. The human had taken a stand for the abandoned, and he hadn't flinched. Back in the hidden chamber, Elira watched in awe as Marcus repaired the heating unit, his hands steady despite the bruises on his knuckles. The children huddled around, their weak laughter filling the space for the first time. "You've done more in 3 days than anyone has in months," Elira whispered, her voice trembling with something close to wonder. Marcus only grunted, though there was pride in his chest he couldn't deny. "That's what humans do. We take care of our own." Elira's silver eyes shone, reflecting the flickering light. For the first time since she had begged him in the marketplace, she allowed herself to believe maybe they weren't doomed. Maybe this stranger, this scarred, weary human, had given them something greater than food or medicine: hope. Time passed slowly aboard Cryon Station, but in the forgotten storage chamber, change grew every day. The heating unit now hummed steadily, repaired with scavenged parts Marcus had bartered or fought for. The air no longer smelled of damp sickness, but of warm broth simmering in a dented pot. The children, once skeletal shadows, now played softly in the corner, their voices no longer weak whispers but giggles and chatter. Their hair had begun to regain its shine, their skin glowed faintly once more. They still bore the marks of deprivation, but the worst had passed. Marcus sat at a workbench he had cobbled together from old crates, carefully repairing a lamp. His calloused hands moved with the precision of a soldier cleaning a rifle. Every task, no matter how small, he treated like part of a mission, because to him it was. Behind him, Elira watched the children with quiet wonder. She sat straighter now, her shoulders less burdened. The fear that had once haunted her eyes had been replaced with something steadier: resolve. She had learned from Marcus the discipline of rationing supplies, the methods of keeping the younger ones busy, even how to set up a perimeter alarm around their chamber using spare wires. "You've changed them," she said softly, turning her gaze to Marcus. He didn't look up from the lamp. "No, we did. You kept them alive long enough for me to show up. Don't sell yourself short." Her lips trembled at his words. She shook her head. "Before you came, I didn't believe we had a chance. Every day I thought, this is the one. This is the day they slip away one by one. But now—" She glanced at the children, her silver eyes shining. "Now I believe we'll see tomorrow, and the day after." Marcus paused, finally lifting his gaze. His scarred face was unreadable, but his voice carried a weight she felt in her chest. "That's all survival is, one day at a time. Keep moving forward. You'd be surprised how far that gets you." Silence stretched between them, not heavy this time, but comfortable. Later that evening, after the children had drifted off to sleep, Elira approached him again. She hesitated at first, wringing her hands, then finally spoke. "You could have walked away," she said. "No one would have stopped you. The station wouldn't have cared. Even the other humans here, they would have ignored us. But you stayed. Why?" Marcus leaned back against the wall, staring at the ceiling as if the answer might be written there. He thought of Earth, of battlefields littered with the broken, of promises he had made and broken. He thought of the nights he had drowned in. Silence, convincing himself that running was the only way to live. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough but steady. "Because when someone's drowning, you don't ask why. You just pull them out." Elira's throat tightened. She had expected many answers: pity, obligation, maybe even pride. But not this simple truth. It struck her harder than anything else he had said. "You've given us more than food or medicine," she whispered, tears slipping down her cheeks. "You've given us back a future." Marcus turned his head to look at her, the corners of his mouth twitching into the faintest smile. "Good, because the galaxy's not going to hand it to you. You'll have to fight for it. But at least, now you're not fighting alone." She nodded, her tears glistening in the dim light, and Marcus realized something then, something he hadn't expected when he first followed her desperate plea through the marketplace. He had come to Cryon Station a drifter, a man without roots, chasing nothing and running from everything. But now, in this cramped chamber, surrounded by alien children who clung to him with trust and affection, he had found something he thought he'd lost forever: a family.